Hey folks, welcome back to Motoramblings. I'm Patrick. I'm riding Copper, my 2012 Suzuki Vstrom. It is almost Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And one side note here, just a little personal business. Happy birthday, Susan. Today I want to talk about memories. Alright folks, memories. We have tons of them. The older we are, the more we have. The more things we've done, the more things we've done that hopefully we can remember. Well, I don't know about y'all, but if you told me to go back to my high school days and remember certain minute things, I can almost guarantee you I would struggle. I am old, by the way. But I also believe that if you have a trigger, that those memories can and will come back. Let me explain that a little bit. Recently, I met up with a buddy of mine that I hadn't seen since high school. And you know, I don't want to be rude or anything, but I really hadn't thought much about him and our time together when we were in high school since I moved here to North Carolina some 30 years ago. Now, it doesn't mean I've forgotten him, but it just wasn't one of those things that I had pop up into my head a lot. Now, his name is John, and through a weird set of circumstances, we ended up getting in touch with each other again. And we talked on the phone, and we ended up talking on the phone a very long time. And while we were talking on the phone, I would remember something, say it to him. He would remember something and say it to me. And before you knew it, we each had a flood of memories come back. And all of a sudden, there was so many memories that we shared that we were laughing about that I hadn't thought about in decades. We kind of came to the conclusion that we hadn't seen each other in a little more than 30 years. And we hadn't been in touch with each other almost that same amount of time. So we decided we were going to get together because, as it turns out, he also lives in North Carolina. Now, North Carolina is a monstrous state. It is gigantic. And he lives about 4 hours away. So we ended up getting together. We met for lunch halfway. I went 2 hours, he went 2 hours. And we sat down and we spent an entire afternoon together just talking, just hanging out, sitting at a table at a restaurant there, and just talking. And one memory led to another memory, to another memory, to another memory. Now, did we sit there and talk about our high school days back in the 80s the whole time? No. We had 30 years worth of stuff to catch up on, and we've learned a lot about each other, and there's still a long way to go. I mean, a couple hours here and there isn't going to bring us completely up to date. You know, we both know a lot more about each other's families now than we had. But the memory part of it, to me, all of a sudden I was remembering so much stuff that I just didn't even know was there anymore. And because we started talking about different things, it was almost as if one memory, once you started going through that memory, another associated memory opened up. And next thing you know, you're opening up all these memories all along the way. Man, it was so very cool. And I don't know if she was supposed to be directing traffic or not, but she wasn't looking. All right, squirrel. So what I wanted to talk about was how we were able to unlock memories because we shared them. And Roger and I, we talk a lot about different memories that we have when we go on trips. Roger's from riding the thin lines. And again, he and I will talk about a certain trip and I'll say, oh, remember this, and he'll be like, oh yeah, I remember this went with it, and we remember a ton from the trip. Well, there's also a bunch of stuff that neither one of us are just going to sit down and pick up on and say, oh, by the way, do you remember we stopped at this one gas station and this happened at that gas station? No, there's too much stuff going on to remember that little detail, or so I thought. Roger's always been telling me to keep a notebook, keep a log of some of the things that happen when he, us, or I go on different trips. So he does. He keeps a notebook, and he'll go back in that notebook, and he doesn't write down every single thing that happened that particular day that he's writing about, but he writes some little highlights and names, places. And when he goes back, all the memories that are associated with that will come back to him. And he did that with a couple of the trips that we had taken, and it wasn't all that long ago that he and I sat down and he pulled out that notebook and went to one of the trips that he and I shared, and he pulled out all kinds of memories. He had written something down, and we'd just look at each other and bust out laughing. He read something back, and I'd finish it, because as soon as he started reading it, that memory came jumping back. So to me, it's about the triggers. What triggers your memory? Now, I've heard that the sense of smell is a huge trigger for a lot of memories. But for me, it's being able to go back and remember at least one or two things, and that one or two things will open up a lot more memories. So he had told me about doing this logbook, and it works. I mean, I was sitting there with him. I know that it works. You write it down, then months, years later, you go back and you read it, and boom, all the memories come whipping back in. So I went out to South Dakota by myself, and I recorded a ton, and hopefully if I ever watch these videos back, hear what I'm talking about while I'm riding, that I'll remember things that, you know, slowly fade out, you know, small details from the trip that will fade out between now and then. But what I didn't do was keep a log. Like Roger had suggested, and like I know really works. So I'm really wishing now that I had kept a log, because, you know, I really believe that that would be a great trigger to trigger a bunch of memories, more so than a video. If I want to trigger some of these memories of me being out there by myself and me riding out there by myself, yes, I could go back and watch the video, but it's kind of a process. Whereas if I had a notebook in the back of the bike, which by the way I do, and I could just flip it open to such and such date and such ride, you know, I'd date it or title it South Dakota trip, something. I could read those notes, and, you know, say I took a note at the end of every day and just highlighted a couple of things that had happened along the way. I could read it back, and that whole day would probably come flooding back as far as the memories go. So yeah, I'm gonna start keeping a log so that I can remember certain things that happened on certain days, on certain trips or rides, even if it's just a day ride. Like coming up here and seeing this. Holy crap. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of the whole point of this video, is that to me the memories are there. It's just a matter of going and getting them. And how do we go and get those memories? A shared trip? You can dig those memories out simply by talking to somebody about them. A shared anything. Hopefully you can get those memories back by talking about them. Pictures. You go through a photo album and you see pictures of, you know, certain places you've been and things you've done with someone special in your life, and tons of memories will come back. Gosh, the destruction up here is just incredible. I am at the top of Ox Creek Road near the Blue Ridge Parkway, by the way. So, photos, notes, videos, whatever it is you use to trigger memories, I think it's a great thing to do. I think it's a great way to keep the memories alive. But for me, I think the notebook is probably the best way to go about getting the memories back and reopening the doors that closed on those memories just during regular life. So if I had taken a notebook and jotted something down the very first time I ever went and did an overnight trip with a motorcycle, I could go back to that notebook now and remember so much more about that little trip than I can just by trying to talk about it, just trying to think about it. Triggers, memory triggers. I have to start creating those triggers so that later on I can go back and use that trigger to open up a bunch of memories. So, long, convoluted video saying, folks, document stuff, even the little stuff, because it will bring back so much more than just the little stuff. Alright, folks, thank you so much for watching, and once again, happy Thanksgiving. I hope everybody has an amazing day tomorrow. There's a video here up on the screen. Check it out if you can. I'll talk to y'all later. I hope everyone can stay well, stay safe, most of all, stay happy, y'all. Motor Ramblings out. See ya!